What's that one thing that will help people have better careers, have better lives in the coming world?
I think that in order to truly be successful, like in life, not just professionally, one's ability to change is extremely important, because if we don't have that ability to change, then when change does occur, all we will end up experiencing is challenges.
I agree with the way you're talking about change, that when you have to change and if you're not able to change, okay. I have another opinion on this, which is I believe in changing, evolving, reconstructing, rebranding yourself completely every couple of years. I take great inspiration from Cher, from Madonna. I mean, Madonna's gone from blonde to brunette to, she evolves herself. She rebrands and reconstructs herself every few years, and as does Cher. I mean, you look at the way Cher has gone over her career. She's a different woman every few years. So I think, yes, I agree with you completely that change when change is shoved at you. But I think you should just change every few years because if you don't change, you stagnate.
One of the things I challenge my clients to do quite often is to really, really challenge and dispute your belief systems, because a lot of times we end up, we hold on to values and belief systems that in many cases are no longer relevant in our life.
There are multiple reasons for it. One, your belief or everything you believed in may no longer be true. However, I'm going to throw in a bit of religion here. When I was 10 years old,
yes,
what I understood of my faith or religion, of all the teachings that were given to us, were completely different from what I saw them as when I was 16. And then at 20, as I grew older, as I learned more, as I had more and more life experiences, as I met more and more people, yes, my whole belief system was challenged. And I'm like, wait, I was doing this all wrong. There is another way of looking at it. So I'm going to go as far as saying, to answer your question, that my faith and my fundamental, my core values have evolved tremendously every few months. Every time I read a book, I see my whole life differently.
Another thing that I really had to change is growing up in a very, very conservative Christian fundamentalist group, and being in the United States, until I actually traveled abroad and had physical contact with the Muslim community. So even my opinion of other people, other religions, has had to change because it was no longer congruent with who I wanted to become. So I completely agree. I think every couple of years you must actually go in, look at your belief systems. You have to dispute your belief system. And all I'm going to say, what's the initials of belief system, FQ?
Help me there.
BS. So we have to actually go in
see where
and
you
learn.
were going. Okay.
Yeah, so we actually have to learn how to learn a process to dispute and challenge our own BS. Sometimes things are just no longer relevant in our life. So yeah, absolutely. That's such a huge part of change and change management. And what it also brings up to me, going back to NLP, it also brings up the psychological levels of maturity that we process as we get older. So what is some other than what is some in your life? What is something that's been actually really difficult for you to change?
I have not been. Okay, we'll go into NLP zone now, and I'll slip this in again. That Dennis was actually my NLP coach. That's why we became. That's how we became friends. I wanted to become an NLP master practitioner, which I never did. So I just stopped at being a practitioner. There's one thing which I still wish I could change completely, is that I should not react to triggers. If I don't agree with something, if I think someone's making a complete jack of themselves, I don't know why I find it my moral duty to inform them that. I think it's my egoic mind, arrogance, God knows what it is. It could be political opinions, it could be any kind of opinion or any situation where I feel this person's in the wrong, I have to go in and tell them that. And unfortunately, I do it rather abruptly and not in, it's like, I think it's my natural right to do that. So please help me here. Let's go into coaching zone.
No, it's really interesting because there was a time in my life where I would say to people that I am your moral compass. And so I was very much prone to telling people my opinions as well. And I think what it comes down to is with the deliberate part of the deliberate practice in all of this is literally telling yourself a different story. So I guess the real question is that what you said is that you should tell them. Switch that to why do you want to tell them? Or why do you not want to tell them?
Frankly, Dennis, I don't even know.
So if we change that modal operator.
I don't even know why I need to. I know it's stupid. The thing is, I'm not going to change their opinion. Why am I? And I'm not even being paid to have this argument. So why am I having this argument?
Because it makes us feel morally superior.
Yeah.
That's why it makes us feel morally superior. It elevates our own status in our mind, and somebody that is very educated. I have way more education than most humans need. So
it's totally egoic mind, right? It's nothing but the egoic mind.
Completely, yeah. And so there's a saying that I was taught a long time ago, and that is egos eat brains, and that is really, really true. So when we're functioning from the ego, really what we're doing is we're extremely me-centric. So I think the easiest way to kind of put this is to look at things from different perceptual positions. And I'm not talking about empathy. It's simply like trying to understand the other person's point of view. And if I can't change that anyway, why would I subject myself to feeling either rejected or, why would I subject myself to feeling a way that I don't want to feel? Because when people don't take my advice, the truth, it really frustrates me. And so for me, the change had to come from, I'm happy to take and point out, like, I'm happy to coach you if you pay me. Because then it sets up the context. It sets up the context a little bit, it sets the context up more for success. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. In theory, it makes perfect sense to me. And I'm a student of Buddhism, Taoism, the Zen. I'm a student of all these philosophies and Stoicism. I understand all of that, but when push comes to shove, I don't practice it.
FQ, what I was saying is that human beings, we don't like to feel controlled. And so a lot of times, we tell other people things, and that's a way for us to kind of like maintain control of a situation. However, in many cases, what we end up doing is we kind of put ourselves in the emotional danger zone when we don't get the reaction from the other person that we're criticizing or we're offering advice or anything like that. So I think it's really a big part of change and change management is truly acknowledging who you are as a person, faults and all, because we all have them. But when we acknowledge them, when we acknowledge who we actually are, we can make different choices, and actually we create more opportunities for ourselves when we take in, like I was saying before, disputing and challenging our belief systems or BS.
So yes, we talked about change, we talked about being able to evolve, being able to take care of things, but the first thing people would ask is, I'm not being able to do this. In theory, we all know that, I need to rebuild myself, I need to rebrand myself, but young people or people who are stuck in jobs or who are not in a position of control, or even people who are in a position of control, they are so locked into the comfort zone. Sorry, I'm going to plug it in again. Our previous video was about breaking out of the comfort zone. So people who are either stuck in their comfort zone or stuck in a situation or can't leave their comfort zone, Dennis, my question is, how do they do it?
That's a great question. To really get out of the comfort zone, it's kind of what we've already been discussing. There has to be a willingness to change. There has to be a desire. So a lot of times we end up like bossing ourselves around, like, oh, I don't have any choices. I have to do this. I must do this. I should do this. Instead of talking about things in a way of what we want. I mean, let's be honest. As humans, we typically always find a way to get what it is that we want. So if we want something different, then we must take a different action. And sometimes the different action is simply disputing our own internal dialogue. And I can just tell you that my dialogue a lot of times is pretty negative. So just a little life hack is every time you say something negative about yourself to yourself, you have to give yourself 2 compliments. So it's a deliberate practice of really implementing different strategies, like the way that the biggest thing I can say to this is it all comes down to internal dialogue, the way that we talk to each other. How is your internal dialogue? What kind of ugly things do you say to yourself?
My internal dialogue is in control because I meditate quite regularly, so I've got that in check. But I have an example which I'm going to pose to you, and I hope you can answer that question. Yes, you said people need to have that desire. But I have come across endless people who have the need, who have the desire. Oh, I really want to do this, but that's just words. When you actually tell them to do it, they don't want to do it. They don't really want to do it, but they will tell themselves, and they will tell me, "Oh, I really want this in." Smokers, I mean, you come across thousands of smokers who will say, "Oh yeah, it's killing me and I need to stop," but they never really want to stop. And I want to pose one more example to you, which is really important. A very dear friend of mine just rocked up and passed away a few months ago. So his wife, a very dear friend, was really having a difficult time moving on because really unexpected. She's in mid-40s. He was 50. Just one day he was sitting here and having a conversation with me. He used to smoke. He would, he had bad eating habits, and I said, "Come on, man, straighten up." And he was. The last conversation he and I had was, "No, I'm just 50. I've got time. I'll deal with it later." And 4 days later, poof, gone suddenly. So now, this friend of mine, this young lady, I kept trying to coach her and convince her to stop having that internal conversation. And for months, she was like, "Yeah, I agree," but she just wouldn't do it. And she said, she'd call me 10 times a day. "I'm really hurting. I want to move on. I'm sick of this situation. I don't want to be stuck here. I want to get on with life." And then come 7 p.m., I'm missing him, and you know what I mean? But this person knows that they have to move on. They're saying they need to move on. They're wanting to move on, yet the inertia is not breaking. How do you deal with that?
Wow, that's a tough challenge because especially when you're talking about grief, what we're doing is that's it. Our everything that we've known, security, all of the lower tiers of Maslow's pyramid, with our safety and security have all been violated. So we're really just feeling very vulnerable. If we look at something, simple, a little bit more simple, like the smoking example, I completely agree. As having been a smoker, it always comes down to want. For me, like the truth is, I enjoy smoking. I do. I enjoy smoking cigarettes. What I hated was stinking. I smelled awful. Like I couldn't,
Hallelujah.
I couldn't, my wife wouldn't even hug me. And so without taking a shower.
Good for her, man. So I'm proud of her.
It comes down to focusing, even though I enjoy smoking, it was focusing on the part of it that I disliked, because there's always that balance with everything. So if you focus on the part that's either that you like or you dislike, it always makes change a little bit easier and more palatable. So for me, 5 years ago, I just gave up cigarettes, and it simply was a matter of, like, I still had part of the pack left. It was simply a matter of that the reasons that I was smoking, I had, those reasons were no longer present in my life.
Well, you see,
because I was able to process things.
Okay, I think what I'm going to take back from this is that these are choices, and every choice is a consequence.
Yes.
I mean, it's my choice to smoke or to do drugs, but the consequence is I could die or go to jail or destroy my life completely. So it's a choice you make. So if you, like an interesting example, Malaysia has an movement control order, right, or MCO, I think they're calling it. So you can't come out because of COVID. So this couple was out driving violating the MCO. They were stopped at a checkpost. They sped up, ran away. The police followed them for like 10 kilometers. Finally, they ran out of fuel. The police chase ended, and they got arrested. And guess what? They also had drugs in them. So now he's gone in for 2 years for not stopping, violating MCO, drugs, obstruction of justice, so he's gone for like 4 years, and he has to pay like $2,000 in fine. So he's ruined his life just because he wanted to go out on dates. So that was a choice he made, and here's the consequence. Whereas all he needed to do was just calm down and stay home. He could still do drugs, but just do it at home, man. And his life would have taken a completely different trajectory. So what I'm going to tell people here is that you have to make the right choices for the consequence that you want. And if that choice is evolution, rebranding yourself, then that's the choice you make. A lot of people want to say that, hey, I want to do this in my life. And for example, they're standing in Houston and they say, I want to go to New York, but they're on the bus to the West Coast, Los Angeles. And I'm like, you're going to Los Angeles, you're not going to New York. If you want this, you have to do da-da-da-da-da-da. But you're doing these things. And then if you don't choose the right bus, if you don't choose the right choices and actions, then I think you actually don't want to go there. You're just BSing yourself and everybody else.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And a lot of times we say things that we want that we really don't want. I mean, because the fact is, I mean, when you think about the statement, oh, I want to be a millionaire. Well, but you're not doing the things that millionaires do. So it's if we truly want to implement change, then our thoughts, our words, and our behaviors must be in alignment. So those three things are absolutely critical, is our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
Yeah.
Must be aligned. And, if anybody needs help, getting unstuck, if anybody, needs help with some tools or techniques, please definitely reach out, as I'd love to help you.
Well, thanks, Dennis. I'm going to leave a feeler for people that our next topic is going to be how to deal with criticism, how to deal with people's opinions, how to deal with strangers on the internet, because the internet has opened a whole new world, how to deal with people telling you what to do, what not to do on the internet just because you open yourself to public content by doing a video, by doing a podcast, by putting up a picture, how to deal with all of that. So thank you very much for watching. You need to subscribe to you need to go to Dennis's website and subscribe to his Facebook page, and you need to go to my website and subscribe to that as well. Till next time.
Very good.